Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 9 Part 19 based on novel. So let's start. Monstrous jet black light crazily swept out. In the blink of an eye, even the sky had turned dark. Jet black light was like a dome that enveloped the sky above the square, while an indescribably baleful aura started to hover and gather in the sky. At this very instant, even the yuan power in the area seemed to have become exceedingly dense and heavy, making it hard for people to absorb it. This area seemed to have been saturated by a baleful aura. Jet black light erupted from Shintuju's eyes. At this moment, under the jet black light that covered the sky, he was like an Asura that had crawled out from hell. His presence was extremely terrifying. Lindong, this is my final trump card. If you can break out of this prison, I'll admit defeat. Shintuju's eyes flickered with jet black light as he stared at Lindong and grinned. His grin was suffused with baleful aura. Lindong's gaze was grave as he observed the change in Shintuju. He seemed to be unable to absorb the surrounding yuan power due to the domain of jet black light. As for Shintuju, he was able to endlessly absorb this baleful aura. Such a formidable technique. In the face of such a situation, even Lindong could not help but secretly give praise to Shintuju. It was no wonder that the latter was feared to such an extent by the geniuses from the other four great clans. Even Lindong felt that this move of his was considerably problematic. Within this demonic earth prison, I'm afraid that you're destined to lose. Shintuju clenched his fists, as jet black light extended from his hands, transforming into two long jet black sabers. Jet black light flickered on the blades, while extremely cold and sinister fluctuations radiated from them. Gripping the two sabers, Shintuju's gaze abruptly turned ice-cold. As his gaze turned ice-cold, the monstrous baleful chi within the demonic earth prison instantly erupted. Rustle. Shintuju's arms moved, and the two sabers had already chopped down furiously. Piercing howls immediately rang out, as two gigantic jet black blade glints, at least 1,000 feet long, instantly formed. With extremely astonishing speed, they viciously slashed at Lindong. As Lindong looked at the blade glints that were rapidly growing in his eyes, his expression turned somewhat grim. He was able to clearly sense that the power of Shintuju's attack was amplified in this demonic earth prison. If one were to be hit by the incoming blade glints, even those of Wei Yishan and Chen Luo's caliber would likely instantly suffer serious injuries. With a thought, the blade-like green dragon wings behind Lindong's back furiously rotated to their sides, forming two sharp full moons. Green light erupted explosively, and a green dragon phantasm was faintly discernible, before transforming into a protective screen in front of him. Bang! Brimming with astonishing force, the blade glint's violent slashed down on the green dragon phantasm. Instantly, a loud noise rang out, as gales swept out, while Lindong's body was smashed a dozen steps backwards. As he shot a glance at his wings, he saw that some of the dragon scales were already shattered. Shintuju's attacks were clearly growing more and more ferocious. Heh. My attacks have only just started. I wonder how many rounds your green dragon battle armor can last. Shintuju rested his sabers on his shoulders. He grinned as he gazed at the miserable-looking Lindong, before opening his mouth. In the next instant, an extremely boundless jet black light howled out from within. Hum. As the jet black light swept out, the baleful chi that within the demonic earth prison rapidly gathered. After a series of hums, it finally transformed into jet black blade glints. These numerous blade glints were densely packed in the air. Jet black light gathered on the surface of the blades, seemingly forming ghostly faces, while a frighteningly baleful and deadly aura spread out in the sky. This scene caused even the experts, who had the qualifications to break through to the advanced profound life stage, to be struck with terror. Every single blade glint was stronger than the two that Shintuju had sent out previously. In addition, the large numbers made everyone feel their scalps turn numb. Asura Blade Prison. With a wave of his sleeve, the hundreds of jet black blade glints instantly tore through space, covering the entire sky, as they explosively shot towards Lindong. Swish! Lin Dong's expression was grim as he gazed at the astonishing blade glints that were shooting towards him. Opening his mouth, a scarlet-red ray of light whizzed out. Facing the wind, it rapidly expanded, transforming into a scarlet-red cauldron. Clang, clang, clang. The blade glints violently hacked at the scarlet-red cauldron, causing sparks to shoot out explosively. Under such a berserk attack, the glow on the surface on the burning sky cauldron turned somewhat dim. However, it still managed to receive all the attacks from the blade glints. However, although he had successfully defended against this attack, Lin Dong's expression did not relax at all. At this very moment, there were still innumerable jet black blade glints that floated in the sky. If he was hit by all of them, even if his physical body was stronger than it was now, he would still be riddled with 1,000 bloody holes. You managed to block it, huh? Shintu-ju looked in amusement at the spectacle before him, and smiled. Forming a seal with his hands, he said in a soft voice, "Congeal." Hum hum. As he said that word, the innumerable blades that blotted the sky suddenly started humming again, before abruptly sweeping forward. However, instead of launching attacks, they started to condense together. Finally, under Shintu-ju's smiling gaze, they transformed into a jet black blade chi 12 feet long. This jet black blade chi was rather small. However, even Lin Dong was able to feel an extremely dangerous aura radiating from its surface. Shintu-ju had actually completely compressed that numerous berserk blade glints into this blade chi. The killing power it possessed would undoubtedly be extremely devastating. Go? Looking at the grim-faced Lin Dong, Shintu-ju faintly smiled, before extending his finger. Roar? Following his action, an astonishing azure roar suddenly erupted from within the jet black blade chi, as a baleful aura spread out in a ferocious manner. With a swish, the jet black blade chi explosively shot forward. Creak creak. The speed of the jet black blade chi was indescribably fast, and it seemed to have pierced through the obstruction of space. As the sound rang out, Lin Dong's pupils contracted, and he could already feel a piercing pain from his forehead. Quickly after, bright green light swept out from his body like a tidal wave. The green heaven materialized dragon skill had been pushed to its limits. He knew that he was simply unable to evade this strike from Shintu-ju. It's the end. Looking indifferently at this scene, a murmur emerged from Shintu-ju's mouth. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion noise abruptly rang out from the green light, as frighteningly swift and fierce blade chi poured out in torrents, causing the ground to instantly split and shatter. It is over. A relaxed voice emerged from Shintu-ju's mouth at this instant, as his bright eyes looked at the square. In that instance, he could clearly feel that Shintu-ju's attack had landed on Lin Dong's body. No matter how powerful Lin Dong's physical body was, an attack of that degree would definitely seriously injure or even kill him. This fight had already ended. Upon hearing this, Shintu-ju heavily breathed a sigh of relief. However, this time round, she did not display any contempt. Within their generation, there were less than 5 people who had the qualifications to force Shintu-ju to use the Azura earthly demonic prison in the Heaven Wind Sea region. Has he lost? As Shintu-ju said those words, on the Gu clan side, the expression of Gu Shou had also turned dim. Gu Minchi clenched her jade-like hands tightly, as her beautiful eyes locked onto the jet black light. Has it truly ended? Indeed, it is still impossible, Gu Yang said with a bitter smile. Shintu-ju's strength had already reached such a level. It was difficult even for Lin Dong to defeat him. Ha ha! Within the jet black light, Shintu-ju wore a smile on his face, as he stared at the place that had been devastated by the powerful blade chi. After a moment, he shook his head, and turned around to leave. He had absolute confidence in this attack of his. Thud. However, the instant he turned around, the low sound of a footstep suddenly faintly rang out from the place that the blade chi had devastated. This footstep immediately made Shintu-ju's body freeze. Subsequently, he slowly turned around with an expressionless face. His pupils slightly contracted, as he stared at the thin figure that was slowly walking out from within the blade chi that blotted the skies. That thin figure was totally covered in blood, as he slowly walked out of the area where the blade chi had wreaked havoc. As he raised his head, a brilliant smile appeared on his face. Above his smile, a spirit brand flickered as it appeared on his forehead. As the spirit brand appeared, the baleful chi within the demonic earth prison was instantly pushed away and scattered. I'm afraid that it's not over yet. A majestic aura abruptly swept out from the demonic earth prison like a ray of light that pierced through the heavens and the earth. Under such a tyrannical aura, the baleful chi that had pervaded the air seemed to weaken. Around the square, shock and astonishment surfaced on everyone's gazes as they looked towards the youthful figure that had walked out from the swift and fierce blade chi that blotted the sky. The sudden explosion of his aura caused them to be rather shocked. No one had imagined that Lin Dong was still able to counterattack under such a perilous situation. In addition, they were also able to sense that Lin Dong's aura had clearly greatly strengthened. Although it had not reached the advanced profound life stage, it was not far from that level. With this, Shen Tuju's advantage was rapidly equalized. With the loss of such an advantage, the situation had started to become complicated and confusing. Is that a spirit emblem? Amazement appeared on Shen Tudao's old face, as he looked towards Lin Dong's forehead. Soon after, his expression turned exceedingly grave as he said, "Where exactly does Lin Dong come from? Not only does he possess various powerful martial arts, he even has a miraculous treasure like the spirit emblem." A spirit emblem was also rather valuable in the chaotic demon sea. Within them were an ancient expert's entire lifetime worth of cultivation. If the owner had good compatibility with it, it would become an outstanding training aid. Although spirit emblems would occasionally appear in those large-scale auctions in the chaotic demon sea, they were exceedingly valuable items. With the help of that spirit emblem, Lin Dong's aura has already become indefinitely close to the advanced profound life stage. Shen Tuju's advantage has started to disappear. The other elder, Shen Tu-mo, slowly nodded his head while speaking. Being close doesn't mean that he has reached it. Even if Lin Dong has such a trump card, defeating big brother Shen Tuju will not be easy, Shen Tu-rong said while clenching her jade-like hands. Although her words were still as unyielding as before, there was clearly some graveness and worry within her eyes. Spirit emblem, he truly has quite a few trump cards. As Ji Yu Shou continued to stare at the square while a pleasantly surprised expression bubbled forth on his old face, which originally wore an ugly expression. An extraordinary splendor sparkled in Ji Yu Mingqi's eyes while her gaze was locked tightly onto Lin Dong within the square. The latter was akin to a bottomless pit that no one could see through. Every time people assumed that he had exhausted all of his abilities, he would always pull out a hidden card that would shock everyone and reverse the situation. Next up, I hope that he can turn this unfavorable situation around. Spirit emblem, Shen Tuju's face was emotionless as he looked at Lin Dong, who was slowly walking forward, before resting his gaze on the flickering spirit emblem on the latter's forehead. Immediately, his pupils faintly contracted, as he spoke out softly. "I never imagined that you would actually have such a trump card." Lin Dong's hands slowly clenched into fists. The boundless and strong power within his body felt like a volcano that was on the verge of erupting. The power of this spirit emblem was indeed tyrannical. I also need a quota for the chaotic tower. Therefore, before achieving my goal, I don't intend to lose that easily. Raising his head, Lin Dong sent a smile towards Shen Tuju while replying. Understandable. Shen Tuju's face was emotionless as he nodded his head. In the next instant, his gaze appeared to turn sinister and gloomy, as his hands slowly clenched. However, it's still those same words. This path is impassable. Lin Dong faintly smiled. With a clench of his fist, a metallic tree trunk appeared within his hands. Hoisting it up, he pointed it towards Shen Tuju in the distance and replied, "Then, let's continue fighting." "Is that so?" A cold glint flashed within Shen Tuju's eyes. In the next instant, he suddenly raised his palm, as his 5 fingers formed a strange seal. Following the formation of the seal, everyone could feel an extremely boundless yuan power mixed with boiling baleful chi frantically unfurl from his body. Rumble. The yuan power mixed with baleful chi were akin to layers upon layers of black clouds, as they rapidly gathered above Shen Tuju's head. Astonishing fluctuations were faintly discernible as they started to radiate out. If you assume that you're able to rely on a spirit emblem to make me, Shen Tuju, scared, I'm afraid that you're still somewhat naive. Shintu-ju stared chillingly at Lin Dong. In the next instant, he suddenly bit his tongue, causing a streak of blood to shoot out, which rushed towards the surging clouds in the sky. As the blood shot into the boundless cloud layers, they instantly started to churn berserkly. Faintly, there seemed to be something astonishing that was being born within the clouds. I truly have to do my utmost. Lin Dong gazed at the churning clouds. From them, he could feel a considerably tyrannical pressure. From the looks of it, Shintu-ju was also about to use his vicious moves. Hum hum. Resplendent green light slowly radiated from within Lin Dong's body, while the spirit emblem on his forehead became increasingly dazzling. At the same time, waves of powerful fluctuations started to ripple outwards. Boom! Rumble! The churning of the black clouds carried on at a great speed. In the next instant, peals of thunder rang out, and the clouds squirmed at an insane speed. Faintly, they seemed to transform into giant object. Ghost Emperor's soul-suppressing tower. With an awe-inspiring air, a low and deep voice suddenly rang out from Shintu-ju's mouth. Subsequently, jet black light shot outwards explosively, as the giant object became increasingly clear. Finally, under everyone's fixated glares, it transformed into a giant, jet black tower approximately 1,000 feet tall. Jet black light swirled around the top of the giant tower as chains started to extend from it. Ghost face patterns covered its entire surface, as a strange and sinister aura emerged. Lin Dong. Among our generation, only 2 people have experienced this move of mine. Now, you'll be the third. Jet black light erupted from Shintu-ju's eyes as he stared at Lin Dong in the distance. Soon after, he grinned, revealing his sinisterly white teeth. At this moment, his face appeared rather ghastly, making him look extremely terrifying. Therefore, there's no need to feel disgraced if you lose today. As the last word left his lips, Shintu-ju's eyes instantly turned cold and stern. With a low roar, his hand swatted out in a flash. Subsequently, the giant jet black tower howled forward. With an imposing aura, it pressed straight down on Lin Dong. Bang bang bang. As the giant tower descended, distortions start to appear in the space around it, while the earth frantically crumbled, and gigantic cracks rapidly spread across the square. Everyone could see that Shintu-ju had already displayed his abilities to his limits at this moment, and he planned to use this move to finish off Lin Dong. Lin Dong raised his head, and gazed at the black tower, which cast a gigantic shadow. He could sense extremely dangerous fluctuations originating from the tower. Who? A clump of white air was exhaled from Lin Dong's mouth. Soon after, his expression instantly became exceptionally solemn, as resplendent green light erupted from his body like a pillar of light. Roar! A deep dragon roar rang out at this instant, as green light surged on Lin Dong's 4 limbs. 4 green dragon light tattoos simultaneously flew out from his body. Lin Dong's right hand stretched out in a flash, and grabbed the 4 green dragon light tattoos. At that instant, his right hand expanded at a terrifying speed, as layers of dragon scales started to surface. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a green dragon claw that was 1,000 feet wide, as extremely mysterious runes appeared under the dragon claw. Green Dragon Heavenly Seat Seal. A low and deep voice accompanied the dragon roar as it rang out from Lin Dong's mouth. At this instant, a dazzling brilliance suddenly erupted from the spirit emblem on his forehead, as the green dragon claw expanded once again. The green dragon claw created by Lin Dong's 4 green dragon light tattoos, as well as the power of the spirit emblem, floated in the air. It was as if an ancient giant dragon that had ripped space apart, and descended into this world. Bang! Lin Dong stared at the giant black tower descending towards him with eyes infused with green light, before thrusting his palm forward. Immediately, the heavens and earth shook, as the green dragon claw which contained all of Lin Dong's power smashed through space. Under countless shocked gazes, it viciously slammed against the giant black tower. Clang! The instant the 2 forces collided, a sound that could shock and all the universe rang out. A resplendent and berserk circle of light rose up from within the demonic earth prison like a scorching sun. Under its intense radiance, everyone could sense a devastatingly destructive ripple. Bang bang! The expansive limestone square appeared to be twisted and warped by a tremendous force, as waves of earth rippled out one after the other on the surface of the ground. Practically the entire square had been shattered. Solemn gazes witnessed the frightening shock waves spread outwards from the demonic earth prison. A few cautious people had already hurriedly retreated, afraid that they would be affected by these shock waves. Such an astonishing exchange. Some elders of the Shinto and Jiyu clans stood up at this moment. Their eyes were tightly locked onto the epicenter of that dazzling brilliance. Even they could not help but have grave expressions painted on their faces, as they felt these astonishing fluctuations. Even with their strength, they could not underestimate fluctuations of this degree. Such attacks had been displayed by two youngsters. The experts of the older generation could not help but lament upon witnessing this scene. Who won? The disciples of the two clans stared anxiously at the destroyed plaza. Everyone could tell that the attacks of the two were exceedingly vicious and ferocious. Therefore, there would definitely be a victor in such an exchange. Elder Jiyu Mengchi tightly clenched her jade-like hands. Her eyes brimming with worry, she looked towards Jiyu in an attempt to see whether he could obtain any news of the result. However, Jiyu only wrinkled his forehead. The Yuan power within the square was too wild and chaotic. With such chaos, even someone like him would be unable to accurately sense the situation within. Jiyu continued to stare firmly at the square filled with an intense radiance. Moments later, his pupils suddenly contracted slightly. Bang! In that instant, an intense brilliance akin to the sun suddenly dashed towards the heavens. Moments after, the brilliance dimmed, while a cloud of dust rose up. The scenery within started to faintly appear once again. Swish! Every gaze immediately shifted over in a flash, while the cloud of dust started to slowly disperse under their attentive gazes. As the dust scattered, two somewhat thin figures started to appear. Above their heads, the gigantic green dragon claw had caught the giant jet black tower, while distortions had appeared in the surrounding space. Who won? Everyone stared at the deadlock, as their hearts seemed to rise to their throats, especially the members of the Shinto and Jiyu clans, whose eyes were opened the widest. Even the elders who had pretty high status, like Jiyu and Shinto Dao, had tightly clenched their fists. The entire mountain summit had become devoid of noise. Only the sounds of the gentle wind brushing across the mountain forest remained, leading to a melodious rustling noise. Crack! This silence did not continue for long, as people started to hear minute-cracking sounds from the air. Immediately, they turned their gazes only to see that cracks had started to appear on the surface of the giant jet black tower. Shinto-ju's soul-suppressing tower is about to break apart. Sharp cries of alarm suddenly rang out in a piercing manner. The faces of the Shinto clan members changed in a flash. Looks like you're going to lose. Lin Dong raised his head. At this time, his face was stained with blood, while his aura was similarly fluctuating as it heaved up and down. Obviously, he had suffered injuries in the previous clash. Shinto-ju's delicate and handsome face immediately turned exceedingly ugly at this moment. He could feel the terrifying power from the dragon claw that was grabbing onto his soul-suppressing tower. In your dreams? Shinto-ju's eyes flickered crazily, before an ominous glint abruptly flashed within them. Biting the tip of his tongue, essence blood containing boundless Yuan power spurted out, shooting directly towards the Black Tower. Hum hum. Following this support from the essence blood, jet black light once again erupted on the surface of the Black Tower, while those cracks gradually started to recede. As if it's that easy to beat me. Shinto-ju roared deeply, while his breathing had started to become rather labored. It was evident that he had staked everything he had into this move. Since that's the case, I'll shatter your intentions, Lin Dong said as he looked at the stubbornly resisting Shinto-ju. As his mouth cracked open into a grin, the blood stains at the corner of his mouth made him look fairly sinister. Over the years, he had experienced countless life or death struggles. If Shinto-ju wanted to compete with him in viciousness, Shinto-ju would obviously be inferior. The spirit brand on Lin Dong's forehead started to sparkle maniacally once again. Extremely vigorous energies streamed out endlessly, before pouring into his limbs and bones. Under the boundless energies, even with his tyrannical physical body, Lin Dong was still able to feel a stabbing pain from within his body. However, there were no signs of him stopping. Instead, he viciously stared at Shen Tu-ju like a wolf staring down its prey. Subsequently, as his lips parted, as his eyes instantly turned ice cold. Break! Lin Dong abruptly clenched his fist, as a deep roar furiously rang out. Bang! Following his roar, green light instantly erupted on the gigantic green dragon claw, as an ancient dragon roar rumbled across the entire area. The green dragon claw ruthlessly crushed downwards, causing cracks to rapidly appear once again on the recently restored Black Tower. Break! This time, Lin Dong did not give Shen Tu-ju the slightest opportunity. The spirit brand on his forehead started to increase in brilliance once again, and the green dragon claw swelled once more. Bang! Within the grip of the expanding green dragon claw, monstrous power poured out in torrents onto the Black Tower. In the next instant, under the countless shocked gazes, it exploded with a loud bang. Ugh! When the Black Tower exploded, Shen Tu-ju's face abruptly turned pale, as he spurted a mouthful of blood, and his aura instantly weakened. Let your demonic earth prison be broken too. Although he had crushed the Black Tower with a single claw, Lin Dong's eyes still remained as deadly as a blade's edge. With a thought, the gigantic green dragon claw swept out once again. It ruthlessly smashed against the jet black light that had enveloped the entire square. Boom! When the green dragon fist landed on its surface, the light screen instantly started to shake violently. With a final clear sound, the Azura earthly demonic prison, which was created by Shen Tu-ju's full power, was forcibly shattered. As the demonic earth prison was broken, Shen Tu-ju suffered another blow, sending him flying backwards. Under countless dumbstruck gazes, he slid backwards on the ground for more than 1,000 feet. Whoosh! In this instant, a noise that shook the heavens rang out from around the square, as everyone looked dumbfoundedly at the spectacle before them. No one would have ever guessed that in this short moment, Shen Tu-ju, who had the advantage all along, was defeated in such a thorough fashion. In the Shinto clan direction, everyone stared at this scene in disbelief, especially the younger generation disciples. All of them had seemingly lifeless expressions on their faces. They were unable to believe that Shen Tu-ju would actually be defeated. Cough. Within the square, Shen Tu-ju coughed violently, as blood spurted out from his mouth. At this time, his delicate and handsome face still appeared extremely fierce and vicious. Half squatting, an unresigned roar erupted from his throat. With a clench of his fist, a black saber appeared in his hand. Swish! However, just as he was prepared to continue, a whooshing noise rang out in front of him, as a demon-like figure came sweeping towards him. In the next instant, a black tree trunk that had sharp branches appeared before his forehead like a murder weapon brimming with killing intent. That ice-cold killing intent that made no attempt to conceal itself caused Shen Tu-ju's body to freeze. This killing intent made him understand that if he were to make any strange movements, the sharp tree branches would definitely smash his head into a pulp. The person before him seemed to be even more ferocious and vicious than himself. Lin Dong gazed at Shen Tu-ju, before deeply inhaling, as he slowly said, "Sorry, I've won. This video will end here."